know. So people act honestly and transparently. People who act honestly and transparently are difficult or impossible to swindle. So if you're honest, if you're transparent, it's kind of difficult to to swindle you because you're not trying to hide something. But sometimes that is not enough. You also need to be streetwise because this will come so seemingly innocent, so seemingly harmless, so seemingly fragile that your mercy, your bowel of mercy, might want to help them, might want to fall for it. So sometimes it's not just that you're not honest or you're not transparent. Sometimes they just come to play on your bowel of mercy. So it takes wising up. It takes to have heard about it. It takes to know about the game. It takes to have heard about other people's experience. Sometimes to avoid being swindled yourself, because you just want to help them. I've had people come into my Facebook profile, with different kind of excuses. Oh, I've gone to see someone somewhere and the person is not at home and I'm stuck. I don't have money to go. And it's me that you have never met before in your life. I'm the one to help you. You don't know any other person but me that you have never met in your life. There are those that say, "Oh, I have a child, and I don't have money to feed." And you go check their status; they're single. They don't have a child. People come with different foolish, stupid, crafty stories, all because they want to deprive you, they want to separate you from your money, they want to swindle you, right? So, but sometimes there are different types. There are those that come and give you the sense that you're going to gain some kind of reward. It may there's so much money somewhere if you do this. That one takes you not to be honest. To get swindled into that. Just that there are different categories of conning. If it's those ones where they suspected some fraudulent reward, for you to get conned into that, there must be some dishonesty also in you. But if it's just to help somebody who's deceptively looking for help, yeah, that could be pricking or calling on your bowels of mercy. But it takes you to be streetwise to be able to see, to be able to see through such people, right? So you learn, and that's the reason why we're having this discussion also, so that your consciousness, our consciousness, collective consciousness, can awaken, to this game, this con artistry, so that it will reduce the potential of being a victim of such a game, right? So, con men feel that professional men as a class are notoriously gullible, So, in the con artistry, they feel that, professional people are notoriously gullible for different reasons, I would say, from my own experience. Again, con artistry, is calls or is asking for you to trust them with the intent of them abusing your trust. But a professional person is one who tends to give and to receive trust. Right. In professional circles, it was by trust. You believe in a system that a system would work. So you do your part, believing that the system would work. Right. That's what happens in professional circle because everyone is given their own task. Everyone is given their own terms, their own description of your duty of the part of the weight that you're carrying in the company, and all you as you do your part, you're hoping that someone else is doing their part, so that everything can work together and produce the result that the company demands or the company needs, right? And being someone used to a system, all the con man needs to do is write a con story or develop a con artistry that will fit what you are used to, right? It just models what you are used to. And when you see something that you're used to, you tend to believe it because that's what you live and walk and breathe every day. right? So anyone that's used to any particular system can easily be conned, because all the con artist needs to do is develop a story that mimics, that is analogous to what you are used to. And because it's something you trust, you tend to think that this one will work just like the one that you do every day, right? So that's another part of the act of conning, right? So corner trees, they readily fancy, yeah. So that's pretty that, So you have to be careful, That's why anything that you do, don't get too suckered into the thing that you do, that you leave your brain at home. Yes, in life we go where our heart is taking us, but never leave your head behind, because your heart cannot think. Your heart senses the momentum, senses probably where the wealth is, where to go, but your heart is not your thinking, is not what you have been given to reason or to analyze. The heart cannot analyze. The head is what does the analysis, the breaking down to the tiny pieces to understand how they fit together. So as much as you're following your heart, take your head along. You're going to need your head, to be able to decipher, how far you should go, where to stop, where to turn, right? Where to leave, where to stay. That's important, So, uh, in the light of yeah, yeah. So pretty much that. So we need to be careful, wherever we find ourselves to, always take time out to think, and thinking is important. If you're gonna make it in life, you must have a time to think, because if you don't think, you would be you will always follow whatever is feeding you. You will always go some whatever is in a part of your unconscious bias, which is not always the part of life. The scriptures will say there's a way that that leadeth unto death, that seemeth, how does it put it now? There's a way that seemeth right, but the hands thereof is the way of death. It looks right because it fits your model. It fits what you are used to. But someone has tweaked something somewhere, and if you don't spend time to think, to reason out what is going on, you might just be suckered into something that's taking you to hell, where you are thinking you're taking you to heaven. You are thinking this is the what I'm used to that normally works, but someone has changed something along the way. And if you're not one that thinks or has time to think, you might be suckered into something that will make you lose, not gain. Right? That's important. So we need to always have, one of the ways we avoid being suckered is to have time to think. Every time I get to exercise is my thinking time. As much as I'm exercising my muscles and my body, that quiet time I used to think. I used to reason out my way. I used to think about what I'm going into, what I'm into, what I'm expecting, and in that time of exercise, I come up with what to do, whether to stay the same, to change, all of that. I see clearly in my thinking time, right? So my time of exercise for me as a person is my dedicated thinking time. Also, when I pray in the Holy Ghost, which I got to do Monday to Friday, it's a time I think also, because my mind is not fully active. As I pray about my ways also. So that's another time for me, but not as much as the exercise time. But you must have time to think. Don't just be on the rat race. When you're not thinking, you are a rat on the rat race. It's the people that think that get off the rat race, right? Life is such that it wants you to just be following, playing the followers game. You're just doing what every other person is doing without knowing why they are doing it, without knowing why they're doing it and where they're going, right? You need to do better than that. Yes, it's okay to learn from others, but then you must be sure that what the result that is getting is something that you want. It's something that when you get it, you will feel fulfilled. You'll be happy about the result that you get, because we're all different. What's good for A is not necessarily good for B. What's good for A and B might not necessarily be good for C, and we don't know which one is yours. So that's why you need to think. There's nothing wrong with learning from others and sometimes copying others, but be sure that what you're copying is suited and fitted for you, right? It's not a square peg in a round hole. It needs to be a square peg in a square hole, or a round peg in a round hole. So think about it. Sometimes you don't have to do everything that they're doing. All you need to do is tweak some things to make it you. Tweak some things that will make it, be more amenable to your person, to your person, your goal, your desire, and pretty much what suits you, right? So that helps, to avoid being swindled, having to think and reason out whatsoever thing you are into.